This has been requested by a lot of my students. Is like a flex guide to set 7.5, and like how flexible the set is and what are different options to play when you're playing the set. So I think the most important thing to realize is that this set is probably the most flexible set, being that you can really slam any items for the most part in the early game. Um, that really fit into a lot of comps. So if you have like an AD start, right? So if you have like Ezreal and Twitch and maybe like a Sejuani and some bruisers, if you slam like Guinsoo, Last Whisper, GS, IE, anything along those lines, you're probably in a very good spot to play Xayah. Is probably your first pick, but don't also to discredit going for Graves with these items as well, because a lot of the times you're going to be slamming something like Last Whisper or IE or something like that, and having one of those items beyond Graves is really good, because really the only other core unit item for Graves is Edge of Night, and then the other core unit is just Seraphine, right? And we all know that Seraphine and Shyvana share similar items anyway, so really making any of those in the early game are really good. So if you have an 80 start playing a board like this, you're gonna obviously default into Xayah, but if you low roll Xayah and you don't hit your Shyvana, you can definitely pivot into Graves with a board like this, especially through the mid game and on your like 4 or 5 roll down if you have Seraphine items. So let's take a look at this as well. If you have like an AP start, again, don't discredit AD from this spot. While this may seem very tempting to play like Lagoon Sohm or something, make sure you're keeping your options open, because Morello, Deathcap, Archangels, GG are really, really good Shyvana items. Archangels, Morello, Rabadon's Deathcap, and Shojin are really good Seraphine items as well. So no matter what start you have, you really have options to play into a full AP tree, or you have options to play into an AD tree that utilizes AP items like Shyvana or Graves, like I said before. But um, this is very good if you want to play towards Sohm. This can also too be very good, obviously, if you're playing, into Sohm, or you miss on Sohm, and then you find some Graves and some Seraphines, and you have some leftover AD items. Um, by all means, pivot to Shyvana or Graves. Don't keep forcing Sohm, especially if you have the AD items to let you play a secondary AD carry. Um, so yeah, so how do these items overlap? So I kind of talked about this already, but another option here too is playing like Zippy and Deja. This is another comp that's a roll on 8 comp. Again, really good Graves items, really good Seraphine Xayah items. And I'm sure you'll have some belts and cloaks or whatever in the interim. So by all means, you're definitely able to still play Shyvana or Graves from this spot, as well as playing an AP carry, even like Ao Shin. If we have a Shojin or something, instead of Rageblade, we could play that as well. So, but there's 3 comps mainly that overlap significantly with these items. So Xayah, Graves, and Deja, all very flex. A lot of them share a lot of similar units, and they definitely share similar items for the most part. So definitely don't feel that if you open a game a certain way or you slam certain items that you're completely restricted from playing certain comps. Um, so this was also too something someone asked me was, what items go with what mirages. So spell swords, enchantment. So that's the stacking AP one. We definitely want just full attack speed, so Guinsoo Shiv, and then we could always go for some damage scaling or healing if we need it. So like JG Hodge. Or GS, and then if we can't find those, rapid fire cannon works as well. Um, another option with dexterity, duelist dexterity, is just, Jeweled Gauntlet, IE, Archangels. Really don't need attack speed items since the trait already gives you attack speed. Um, So it's kind of, you don't want your trait to overlap with your items, right? So you got to take advantage of them. Warlords, just, you don't have to necessarily roll for Nunu 3, but definitely JG and IE are really the best ones, and then some form of attack speed or mana gaining. I had a student play Shojin one game, and it actually worked out pretty well. So, if you have these items, you definitely have an out pretty much anywhere with you know Deja, and then Dawnbringer. This is really good if you have Spatula, because then you can play Itis frontline with Dawnbringer Spat, and then really your just core items are Archangel and Guinsoo, because your frontline is just so durable that the damage scaling from Archangel will get you there eventually. And then the last item is kind of whatever. And then Executioner, it's really just if you have a Mirage Spat that you open with. You can play 8 Executioner or just don't play it at all. And then obviously Pirate's Greed is not on here because it's not even a comp. Um, that should just be a focus of just playing all of stage two, maybe stage three, just to build your economy, kind of like Astrals. But this is kind of an item guide for Deja. So now let's kind of look what we touched on previously in this little presentation. If we open with AP items, we have an option here to play Shyvana, right? So if we open with like Morello and Archangel Slam and we're playing mages, and then we high roll a Shyvana, and then we have some 80 items left over, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be playing Zaya if we can't hit the AP comp. These items, Archangel's Death Cap Shojin, uh, Rabadon's Death Cap, whatever. You know, the definitely Morello plus Shojin, and then some kind of AP item definitely go really well on Seraphine. So definitely could play Graves, like I said before. And then these items as well. If you slam IE or Last Whisper, you definitely can play Graves as well. Really, all you need is just Edge of Night. So there's an overlap there. And then with this, you can obviously see these items are very similar to Shyvana's. These are a little bit different than um, Zaya's, but really the most important thing here is just Edge of Night and some form of healing. So if we, let's say, slam Last Whisper Hodge, those are good. Zaya items as well. And then we just look for like an Edge of Night or a Titans, which is a defensive item for Graves, which he much needs it because he dashes into the enemy. And then we look for like Protector's Vows or things like that for Zac or ZZ Rots or something like that to really buff up our front line. But as we can see, a lot of overlap between these two comps, and a lot of overlap even in Deja with Archangels, Guinsoo, GS. So it gives you a lot of options. Um, and then if you do open AP, like with a blue buff, I think Lagoon is going to be your best bet. But still, kind of circling back to this idea of playing flex, you really don't need to be pigeonholed into just playing Sohm. If we start with blue buff, obviously it's going to be most beneficial to play Lagoon and farm those items, farm that gold. Um, but these items are also too very good on Shyvana, Morello, JG. Blue buff is okay; it makes her cast faster, but I mean, still very good. Um, and then IE. BT Titans, these are good Graves items as well. So this could be translated into a Graves board. This could be also to a Seraphine board if we miss on one of these units when we're rolling down. So if we have these items, we can still play, Deja if we find a Guinsoo or something, depending on the Mirage. Um, you know, GG is good on Deja. Morello is good on Seraphine. Morello is good on Shyvana. IE is good on Graves. BT is good on Graves. Titans is good on Graves. BT, not that good on Zaya. But you get the point. There's a lot of overlap between those comps, and just because you open one specific way doesn't mean you need to finish one specific way. And then just taking a look at this here, this is kind of more, I would say, out of the flex style, but it's still possible to flex with this board. If you open with Astrals and you high roll Astrals, definitely go for just 3 stars and playing Mage Nomsy if it's here. Um, I wouldn't play this board without Mage Nomsy. I would probably then just look to pivot into like Ao Shin or something. But In a lot of scenarios, if you open with Astrals, you're probably going to make something like Jeweled Gauntlet, Archangels on Lux, or Morello, or Archangels, which are really good Seraphine items, as well as Shojin. So you could just flex this board into like a Graves Seraphine kind of game. Could be a Shyvana angle as well, and play Isaiah depending on how many bows you get and whatnot. Um, and then also too, you could just play this board just straight up into a fast nine and just look to play like Aushin or Aesol, if you have a Mage Spat or something, which is very very strong, and that's a way to cap out. And then just to talk about kind of the Aushin board, if you are flexing, from this comp here into this one, like I mentioned before, these Lux items can go on Shyvana very easily. These Nomsy items could go on Aushin or a combination thereof. Um, so don't limit yourself, right? That's really the moral of the story here. Just because you slam X number of items or what items in the early game doesn't define what you play late. It really just comes down to what items you have and what units you hit. Um, and with really any AP and AD item combination, you can really play anything as long as you hit the units for them. Um, this comp though is very capped. It's very expensive. Two-star Aushin, two-star Shyvana, two-star Terra, two-star Jace, Rakan, and Bard. Very expensive, so it's probably not going to be something you're going for in a lot of games. But this usually tends to be if you have a lot more AP heavy items and a lot of frontline items. Then maybe if you're playing Astrals like this, and this is stable enough, and you're able to make it to nine. Definitely go for a Shyvana Aushin kind of game. Um, it's just a really great way to cap out your board. Um, and with that being said, I mean, that's really just like the flex guide to set 7.5.